guys, what's up? It's Joe Rady from Rady's Rise. We're back at one of my special filming spot locations because guess what? We have a super special review. One of my good friends that I haven't seen in 8 years has brought his baby out, and boy, oh boy, is it one hell of a car. What are we talking about? We're talking about Daniel's 1999 Nissan R34, that R34 GT-R. But before we get into this very special build R34, let's talk about what's going on here. So the GT-R, that car that goes back to 1970, that was actually the birth of the GT-R, has really been a standout in the automotive industry. A lot of it comes down to here in the United States, it's always been that forbidden fruit, never imported as new into the United States, really created a craving, almost like a drug addiction for many car enthusiasts that wanted to get behind the wheel of one. Now, what's fascinating is because of that 25-year rule, when a vehicle like this becomes 25 years or older, it is now allowed to be fully imported into the United States and driven, registered and driven on public roads. Now, let me give you a little background about the 25-year rule. It actually did not originate because of GT-Rs. It originated because a guy by the name of Bruce Canepa wanted to bring the fabled Porsche 959 to the United States, and with his connections, he was able to get a rule going to get that brought over to the United States, and now everybody gets to enjoy in that rule because it allows you to have those dream cars that maybe you only played with on Gran Turismo. Now, Daniel has been a fan of the Skyline, has been a fan of GT-Rs. He's had other models that were not GT-Rs, but now he wanted to go all in because he had the opportunity to pick up this one owner car. He has the documentation to prove it, and he wanted to take it to the next level. So what I want to find out is, if you're thinking about getting a modded GT-R, would you like to have this one, Daniel's, in your garage? Why don't we go ahead, let's dive into his and see if we can find out. Right off the bat, I love the color combination. The bright white with the wheels bright white, and of course that red interior with the seats just gives it that classic JDM style, but it also makes it stand out from the rest of the pack. Now, the front of the business, you're gonna see that R34 look. And if you're wondering, well, when did the R34 come out? It was actually 1998. So it was 1 year before Daniel's. Daniel's is a 99. They built them all the way until 2002. And remember, none of them were sold here new in the United States. And of course, things like the movie franchise Fast and the Furious really just added gasoline to the fire of people desiring one of these. Now, the front of the business, you'll see that style that was happening during this time period. You'll see on the R34 GT-R, you got the xenon headlights. That was something during this time period that was becoming more of a piece of technology for better lighting, for brighter lighting. Now, of course, we've moved on from xenon with full LEDs and laser lights and everything else, but the style just screams that late 90s time period. The bright white, the functional venting, all of the venting that you see is going to be fully functional, of course, and even with that flat black splitter, just gives it not only the right attitude style-wise, but remember, we're trying to stop air from going underneath the car because, as you could probably imagine, based off the exterior and because it's modded, there's some big power that's going to be produced underneath that carbon fiber hood. Now, as we come across the front of the GT-R, you got that classic badge in the center. That is something that goes all the way back to 1970. Fully functional, that nice metal wire mesh up top. Down below, you just see massive intercooler because, of course, we're talking about turbocharged power. Now, what you're going to find on this particular GT-R, Daniel's GT-R, is he actually decided to take a little bit of a different route. Instead of doing the usual JDM style build, he actually went Australian with this particular build. And if you're wondering, well, why Australia? Well, first of all, there were certain things that were available in Australia. And second of all, what's the nickname of the GT-R? Yes, you're correct. Godzilla. It was the Australians that gave the GT-R its iconic nickname. The reason why is going back to the R32, when that came about in 1989 and entered the Australian Supercar Series, it dominated the series. All-wheel drive, rear-wheel steer, turbocharged power with a straight six, and that's where the Australians gave it that name. Now, this being an R34, never raced in that series, but there's many other series, especially in the Japanese domestic market, like the Super GT series, where they ran the R34 based cars of all different classes. Even the coveted 24 Hours of Le Mans, they ran an R34 a few years. But this look is unmistakable, and it's undeniable that it is hot. Super hot. Not only hot temperature-wise, but this thing is absolutely gorgeous. Let me know in the comment section what you're thinking about just the front end of Daniel's GT-R. Now, as we rise up, I love the custom carbon fiber hood. What's tough with carbon fiber when it comes to hoods is getting that fit. And if you notice with Daniel's, the fit is looking pretty darn good. You got that nice bulge action going on, and on the back side, you'll notice that we have heat extractors. So cool air comes in, hot air comes out, and that's going to be ultra important because on this big turbo build, we're shooting for a lot of horsepower. Well, Daniel is shooting for a lot of horsepower with this car. Now, as we come around the bend, what are we working with? Wheel and tire setup. So what you're going to find, all four corners, these 18-inch Desmond wheels. These are actually German made, believe it or not, but a lot of brands copy the style. The white with a little bit of red trim on it just makes it pop nicely. And you see a lot of people go black wheels, a lot of people go gold wheels, or, you know, gray. The white just really works. I don't think I would pick any other color of wheel for this. Now, this is an 18-inch wheel in diameter. All four corners, we're talking about 10.5 inches wide. So we're talking about a pretty wide wheel to get some meaty rubber on that asphalt, and it's got a 15 offset to it. Sneaking on in, you'll notice the Brembo big caliper brake setup. Those gold calipers up front, looks almost like a brick of, like a piece of a brick of gold from Fort Knox. 6-piston calipers, and then you got the 2-piece rotors, aluminum hat. And if you're ever wondering, when I say aluminum hat, what am I talking about? I'm talking about this black part here on the rotor. That's aluminum hat, 2-piece, cuts down on heat buildup, cuts down on rotating mass. Obviously the wheels are lighter. That's gonna cut down on rotating mass. And we have all-wheel drive getting the power to the ground. Tire size, what do we got going on for tires? So what you're gonna find is 285 on the width, 35 series sidewall, and then you'll also notice the carbon fiber fender. Once again, when it comes to fit, looking good. He's got it nice squared off with the hood, and this is sitting on Nismo suspension to bring it down just enough. Remember, when we say Nismo, we're talking about Nissan Motorsports. Now, coming down the side, of course, if you have that Skyline setup, you gotta have the GT badge, you got your required side marker light. No sunroof, none of that to add weight, to mess with the structural rigidity of this car. Overall, the R34 just has a really nice dimension to it. Now, what's interesting is that after the 70s, you didn't see a GT-R for a long time. Remember, these cars were built on the Skyline. So you could buy a Skyline. This is a Skyline injected with more steroids than Jose Canseco ever used when he was playing baseball. What's fascinating is you don't see another GT-R until, like I said, 1989. And that R32 was pretty intense. Now, the R33 that followed, some would say got a little softer, got a little bit more user-friendly. And then what I feel, and what others feel in the auto industry, is when they went R34, they went kind of back to that just rawness and just downright crazy performance. Now, coming towards the rear, one of the things on the R34 you'll find, those flared fenders. Just like up front we got the flared fenders, we got the flared fenders out back. Coming down to the rear, you'll notice the big Brembo setup back here as well. Those 4-piston Brembo calipers, the nice rotors. This thing just sits so freaking perfectly. I love the silhouette of it. And then, of course, as we're coming towards the rear, you got your side skirt extension. And then you have that massive pedestal style rear wing that does have the adjustability in the center here. That's also beautiful carbon fiber. So carbon fiber on the support struts, carbon fiber on the actual rear wing. And then no GT-R is complete. I don't even care if you have an R35 without those iconic round taillights. Looks absolutely spectacular on Daniel's GT-R, that V-Spec 2 badge, and of course the GT-R badge with the Skyline name. I like the way they emboss it into the back here. Working our way down to ground level, the exhaust finishes off with that titanium Tomei muffler, but wait until you see, it's got a 4-inch exhaust all the way back. And when we fire up this beast, you're gonna hear Godzilla's roar. But speaking of the roar, let's go pop the hood and see the heart of Daniel's GT-R. All right, guys, we have that carbon fiber hood pop. Now, before you just dive in, let me give you a little bit of insider information. Another reason why Daniel is going after this Australian style build is because of the block. Obviously, the engine is that iconic RB26. This has an RB30 block, which gives you that building foundation of bulletproof, reliable horsepower. And like I said, he's going for more than 1,000 horsepower with this build. Now, normally a GT-R with the RB26 has 2 smaller turbochargers. What a lot of people tend to do when they're modding their cars, whether it's a GT-R, a Supra, whatever, is taking the 2 off and going with one ginormous one. So coming on in, let me introduce you to that massive Garrett turbocharger. What are we looking at though with the exact setup? So that is a G42 1200 ball bearing turbo. You're gonna have that RB26, RB30 block, which is only available in Australia, a full Nitto Engineering billet wide journal bottom end kit. So we're talking about billet rods, CP pistons, and a billet knife edge crank. This setup is capable of around 2,000 horsepower. You got fully ported heads, which is gonna open up your volume of air that's able to come in. We have a Kelfor LD272 cams, and of course, SuperTech titanium valve train, which includes the springs, the retainers, and the valves. If you got more air, if you got that big turbo, you're definitely gonna need, of course, more spark. So we have the Platinum Racing Products cam gears, the trigger kit, and R35 coil packs. Daniel, the owner of this car, completed the full engine bay wire tuck. So what does that mean? If you notice, the engine compartment is super clean, devoid of all those wires that you would see. Everything's been tucked away nicely, and the fact that he did it himself is freaking amazing. And then of course, you see that front-facing intake manifold with a 90 millimeter throttle body on it. And then we have that 4-inch straight pipe exhaust that leads to the titanium muffler. But like I said, being able to see everything because all that wiring, everything is tucked away. You have that massive 90mm throttle body. You can see the see-through cover for the cam gears. And then, of course, that straight 6 with that massive Garrett turbocharger. But why don't we go ahead? It's one thing to look at this. It's another thing to hear it. Why don't we fire it up and hear the roar of this GT-R. All right, guys, we are in it to win it inside Daniel's 99 R34 GT-R. I know you're saying to yourself, well, Joe, I want to be like Daniel. I have dreamed of a GT-R for a long, long time. I played him in video games. I've seen him on the interwebs. What does it take to do one of these? Well, first of all, and Daniel wanted to be totally transparent, first, you gotta buy the car. And he didn't buy it like this. He actually bought it and then did the modifications. But this car, he bought for $80,000. Now, I know you might say, well, that's a lot of money. Go on websites like Bring a Trailer. Prices are well over $100,000. And of course, they keep getting more expensive every day with tariffs and just less of them being around. But let's see if Daniel did it right with his GT-R. To the door panels. Love the stock classic look. That's what you got in 99 from Nissan. Not a bunch of fancy gloss black all over the place, just clean, and the door pocket is very tight. So maybe just 4 Egg McMuffins, and that's about it. Now going from the door panel to the dash, stock dash. Look at the condition. One of the things you want to always look for, no cracks, no tears, no fading. Absolutely stupendous. He even has the Nismo floor mats. That's worth an extra 5 horsepower. And then he decided to keep it stock, but bring a little bit of color. The bride seats in this bright red just screams classic JDM without going too over the top, because the rest of the interior is that black color. You do have rear seats, which you could share and bring somebody along. But sitting here on what is normally the passenger side is always a little bit of a weird experience. You do have, of course, the nice soft touch material. Look at this. Open this up. Look how clean everything is. Unbelievable. We have that manual transmission, 6-speed manual. You're not getting this in your R35. Nice short throws. Love the Nismo shift knob on there. Even has the Nismo gear pattern. And then AC controls. And just for us, what he did was he took out the Haltech screen and put the stock GT-R, the R34 display. A lot of times these displays get fried. The screen gets all fried from the sun. Look at how clear it is. You can see the boost, all of that information. You can hit display. I love the Japanese calligraphy. Just unbelievable to have that actual piece of R34 history that's functional. And on top of that, we have this added Pioneer head unit, the actual lighter for cigarettes. These get lost all the times, and an ashtray that's super clean. Good old-fashioned mechanical e-brake. But man, I feel snug as a bug in a GT-R race car rug in this thing. It's almost like perfectly made for me. But why don't you come over here to the business side, the other side, so I could show you what Daniel has done to his GT-R. All right, guys, business time behind the wheel on the right-hand side of Daniel's GT-R. You'll notice nice sill plate with the GT-R badge. And then we got that pedal box with the aluminum pedals. Dead pedal, clutch, brake, and throttle. Steering wheel, original, love it. With the perforated leather, the smooth leather, the stripe up top, and the GT-R badge. And then notice what he's added, this Haltech digital gauge cluster with all the readouts. And what's awesome is you can go through a plethora of different displays, including Lamborghini, just for fun. Notice the tach, how it goes across the top there. You could have all your number readouts or go back to that original GT-R Nismo setup. And then if it was hard to see, I wanted to show off that original display again. Like I said, being able to go through this information and that being the original screen is really, really awesome of Daniel to put back into this car. Not gonna show you a trunk. There is a trunk, but who cares? What I wanna do is, if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's go on throttle in Daniel's GT-R. All right, guys, we are in Daniel's R34 GT-R. Obviously gonna build up to getting behind the wheel here since we're sitting on the opposite side of what we're used to. But right away, the sound, the whole feeling is just amplified up to 20. Love the sound of that exhaust. The GetTrack 6-speed has nice, clean throws, crisp engagement. But really just an awesome way to kind of live out your dream. You know, you can get that car you always dreamed of. And for me, this is a dream because guess what? This is the first time I've ever driven an R34 GT-R. Just a lot of fun and a special, very, very special experience. But having the seats, I love the choice that Daniel made. Not only do they look good, but they hold you in nicely. And the way that he built this car to take the power, like I said, he's shooting for around 1,200 horsepower and about 700, 800 pound-feet of torque, but the block and everything is good for up to 2,000. And there's people out there that do it. But just being able to bring these types of cars to you is what makes it very, very special. And I can't do it without people like Daniel that offer their babies up. But that sound, just really creates a special experience that, yeah, R35s are nice, but there's just something so raw about this car. I mean, obviously, especially because it's modded, but even if you bought a totally bone stock R34, there's just a nice raw feeling to it that you just don't get in new cars anymore. But it's so solid. The car is solid. You gotta remember that this is a 99, so she's got some years on her. She's got some mileage, but just rock solid all around. And that's what I love about these cars. It's like, this was the pinnacle of Japanese car engineering and building of cars. You look at a Toyota Supra, you look at Nissan GT-R, Nissan Zs of this time period, they are bulletproof and they are rock solid, even after all these years. But that sound, I'm gonna hear that sound in my dreams. Handling is so perfect. We do have power steering. The AC works great. wow, just it just puts a smile on your face. And like I said, I can't do this without Daniel, so very, very grateful for him to bring his baby out and let us take it for a spin and share that experience with you. Of course, with the brakes, there goes without saying that you'll be able to shed speed very, very quickly. And that's another thing that I'm all about, is it's not just about building a bunch of horsepower, it's about having the complete package. And even though this has been built to a high extreme when it eventually comes to the horsepower, because that's what we're doing next, what Daniel's doing next is gonna do the tune, custom tune to get it all dialed in. It's still the brakes, the wheels, the tires, everything is balanced so that you can feel confident behind the wheel and be able to get full use of all that power and performance. You know, another thing that I love about this car is because of it having that Australian build, the 3.2, it gives you that throatier sound, and that also just creates a more unique driving experience compared to your standard RB26. Not that the RB26 is terrible when it comes to sound, it's just that with this particular build, it just has that awesome throaty sound to it. It's also funny because a lot of people think that this car is strictly about straight line performance, but the handling in it is really where it's at, and that's what it was engineered to do. Like I said, in Australia, they were so dominant when they were being raced, the R32s, the Australians gave it the nickname Godzilla. And eventually they changed the rules to ban them. That's how dominant they were. But just a great sounding, great driving car. I love the fact that the gearbox is just so sweet in its execution. Just slides perfectly gear to gear. And one thing to remind you, since it's been a while since I've driven a right-hand drive car, you know, it wasn't so much the shifter that's the problem, it's the windshield wipers. They're opposite of what you find in your normal US domestic market car. So you just got to be careful not to turn the windshield wipers on every time you think you're going to turn on the turn signals. That took, for me, getting used to. Everything else, it's exactly the same, just on the other side. But the fact that this car idles well, drives smoothly, can sit at a stoplight, and it doesn't overheat. You don't have to sit there and start sweating and freaking out that the car isn't going to be reliable. That's what's great about this type of build, is that it's fully reliable, and the fact that you can enjoy it without sweating whether it's going to get you home or not. And that to me is the key. You could have a fast car, but if you're afraid it's going to break down, what's the point? This thing handles so well. Unbelievable. Just an unbelievable experience. Now, of course, I could be driving this for the rest of the day, the rest of the week, but Daniel is gonna want his GT-R back. So we gotta get back to where it all started and wrap this one up. Stay tuned, because we're eventually gonna do a part 2 of this car with the build, and really let her all hang out and let her loose. But for now, we got to get back and wrap it up, so I'll see you in a split second. All right, guys. What a hell of an experience. This is one of the many reasons why I'm so grateful that I started Rady's Rides and I have all of your support, because Daniel has done a bang-up job with his Australian build R34 GT-R. Definitely got to thank Daniel for bringing her out and letting us get behind the wheel. And like I said, stay tuned for part 2, because with that 3.2 liter underneath the hood, all built up, it's going to have a custom tune, and we are going to really be able to showcase all the hard work that not only Daniel has done, but the others who have been helping him with this build. So very nice to see that. But let me know in the comment section, what do you think? If you were going modded GT-R, are you wanting Daniel's? Do you want that in your garage right now? Let me know in the comment section. But if you're new to the channel, you're on your way out, hit that subscribe button. I promise you it's worthwhile. Come back for more. If you are a subscriber, thank you for being part of the Rady's Rides family. God, thanks Stephen Flood. This one, he should be paying me to film, because he is a hardcore GT-R fan, especially an R34. So thank you, Stephen, for all that you do. And just like always, guys, I'll see you on the next ride.